What's poppin'? Welcome to a Real Ones Web exclusive. I am Logan Murdoch. That is Howard Beck. We are here to discuss who was real or fake heading into the NBA playoffs. Let's start with the Milwaukee Bucks, who have had as much turnover as you can have in a decade all in one season. They have switched their coaches. They have traded for superstars. And they still find themselves not at the top of the Eastern Conference. The biggest storyline has been the partnership between Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. It has been clunky at times. It has been an interesting mix at other times. There's been potential at some points. There's also been disappointments. What grade, Howard, would you give their partnership at this point in time?
Man, I'm going to be generous and give it a B. And I do think that's kind of generous. Like they're gonna finish. You know, as we record this, the season's not over yet. But they're on pace for 50+ wins. Okay, fine, they're a good team. But the Bucks won 58 games a year ago with Drew Holiday instead of Damian Lillard, which raises an obvious question of whether that swap was worth it. And listen, the playoffs will tell us, right? You went and got Damian Lillard because you didn't want to have Giannis barreling through 5 guys to the hoop in crunch time every night in the postseason. You needed somebody else who could generate offense and especially big shots. And we've seen Dame do that at times this season with Milwaukee, right? We've seen, especially later in the season, Dame time has kind of come around. They've improved as a pick and roll partnership, I think, over the course of the season. They've been fine. But what we wanted was, or what we expected was, not fine. We expected devastating, right? We have not seen devastating. We have seen, that's good. Oh, that's better than it was 2 weeks ago. We have not seen them just stomp people. And when you've got Giannis and when you've got the pedigree of that team, you're supposed to be stomping people. When you've got the pedigree of Damian Lillard joining Giannis, you're supposed to be stomping people. And so they have obviously fallen far short of that. But I saw your physical reaction to my B grade, Logan, and it seems to be that
it gave me hives, Howard. It really gave me hives. I'm really disappointed in this team.
What do you got?
I think I got a C+, man. They're losing to the Wizards late in the season. They don't seem to have a sense of urgency. I think they're and we'll get to this other thing, which is the other elephant in the room, is Doc Rivers, who came in to replace Adrian Griffin. And there might have been some dirty macking during the in-season tournament on how he got that job. There's a lot of questions on how he finagled his way into the top job for the Milwaukee Bucks. And they haven't been playing well even under his tutelage. And that's to be expected, right? Because it's really hard to coach a team and take on the reins in February and expect to try to get your identity onto a team. So I do understand that. But every time I watch the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm thinking, you have Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. It can't be that hard. It can't be as hard as they're making it, and yet here we are. And I just really feel disappointed in how they have been playing throughout this season. But the big question is Doc Rivers. Do we trust, based on Doc Rivers' track record, to lead this group after a couple of months on the job?
I mean, they've hovered around 500 during most of Doc's time. And again, we don't have the final numbers as we record this. But if you're hovering around 500 with the team that's supposed to be contending for the title and that has, 2 of the bigger stars in the game, that's a question. Doc was supposed to improve them after they fired Adrian Griffin back in midseason. So the offense has been kind of meh under Doc. The defense is better than it was under Griffin. So they just kind of went the inverse of what they'd been. I think Doc's been fine. And I sometimes think that people put too much on Doc's quote unquote postseason record with, Clippers, Sixers, whoever. There's circumstances around all these things. It's your personnel. It's a lot of different things. I don't know that you take any one postseason stat, 3-1 leads and all this stuff. I get all that. Doc also won a championship back in the day with the Celtics. He's been part of a lot of winning programs around the league. If they fall short, Logan, I don't think this is necessarily about Doc. I think it's partially about the gamble that they made in swapping out Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard. I think it's about other decisions over the last couple of years that have left them, I think, a little thin around Giannis. I think it's about the fact that Chris Middleton has a really hard time staying healthy, and he's been really critical to their fate for years here. It's about the fact that their best supporting players have gotten up there in years and miles, whether it was Drew Holiday before they traded him, or Middleton, or Brook Lopez. It's difficult to sustain in this league. I get that. So this is not to indict the front office, but ultimately you get as far as your personnel can take you in this league. I don't know that it was necessarily Adrian Griffin's fault that they were sputtering at times, or that it will be Doc Rivers' fault if they fall short in this place.
I think also this offseason was a case study in player empowerment. Isn't the right word, Howard, but listening to your star player at all costs out of fear of losing said star player. And I get it. At the time that Giannis was choosing Adrian Griffin, whom he didn't really know, he didn't sign his extension at that point yet. Damian Lillard wasn't even there at that point yet. But how much did last offseason's Milwaukee Bucks team, or the way that they went about last season, really illustrate how the balance that is required between what the superstar player wants and the actual needs of the roster that front office men need to figure out in order to make the team good? How do they balance that? And what was the lesson learned, do you think, from the Milwaukee Bucks from last offseason that they're kind of learning right now?
Contending teams shouldn't have had 3 head coaches in less than 12 months. You can start with that. And you could say that Budenholzer, maybe his time was just come. Fine, but you can't mess up that decision. And going and getting, Adrian Griffin's a really bright basketball guy, and has been an assistant coach for a long time, and he'll get another head coaching opportunity, I'm sure. But like, when you're a contending team, it's dicey betting on a rookie head coach. And Nick Nurse was out there with his championship credentials. There were other options out there, and yeah, by all accounts, including those that you and I have both heard, like they picked the coach that Giannis wanted, and then eventually they had to throw him overboard and bring in another coach again. None of that says, none of that is great for the franchise or for Giannis, frankly. And I do think, as MVP ballots are filled out in the days ahead, it's going to cost Giannis some of his MVP equity too, because, as the franchise star, you're responsible for some of that volatility that you've had at the top there. So, yeah, certainly there are probably lessons to be gleaned from last summer. Player empowerment. I mean, player empowerment is also how they end up with Damian Lillard, right? Dame asked out. Now, Dame wanted to go to Miami, not Milwaukee. We'll get to that one in a second. But a lot of what the Bucks became last summer was because of superstars flexing their muscle.
You're so great at this because you alley-ooped me to my next question, which is the long-term viability of this core centered around, let's just call it what it is, an arranged marriage between Giannis and Damian Lillard. If they don't go far, I mean, they're in the same category as Boston and Denver in a lot of these ways. It's a bit championship or bust with this team, just based on the aspirations of the two superstars, the age of Damian Lillard, and just the overall talent that the Milwaukee Bucks have on paper. But what would an early exit mean for the future of Giannis and Dame in Milwaukee?
It's really rare for a team to give up after just 1 year of a superstar partnership, right? But these are not normal times. And Dame is at a late stage of his career. Again, we know he didn't want to be in Milwaukee. He wanted to be in Miami. He's made the best of it. But there have been kind of like these little subtle moments over the course of the season, or not so subtle, where it seems like maybe Dame is not all that happy there. I think it's a legitimate question. And if they failed in the postseason, then it's going to be my apologies to Giannis for using the word fail or failure. I know it's not his favorite. But is Dame still going to want to be there if everybody concludes this didn't work? Are the Bucks going to feel like, you know what, it's not too late to pivot real quick here? I know Giannis signed his extension, but as I wrote at the time, and as we all know, extensions don't mean anything in today's NBA. All it takes is one change of mood, one bad season, one bad run, and your star could be coming to you saying, you know what, maybe this isn't working out after all, and I want to be traded. I'm not saying Giannis will do that, and I'm not expecting that, but it can happen. So, I think it depends on what the scale of failure is, right? First round, second round, conference finals, whatever that may be. But Logan, I think it's a legit question. If they fall short, and especially if it's like another first round exit, would Dame be on the move again this summer? Like it would not shock me in today's NBA.
Now let's get to the question of the segment. Howard, are the Milwaukee Bucks heading into the postseason real or fake in your eyes?
A team that's been consistently no worse than second in the conference should be automatic real, but I just don't trust them. They're fake.
I'm with you there.
I can't spin it.
I'm with you there. I would not be surprised if this team lost in the first round. That's how disappointing they've been in stretches. I don't care what their record says. I don't care what their place in the standings are. Milwaukee Bucks are fake. You can book it. They won't even make it to the finals.